Gyres Trash Academy, where each week we will bring one of our curriculum lessons to your home. We'll be kicking things off with the plastic journey, which tracks the journey of plastic through its life cycle. Be sure to check out 5gyres.org if you want to follow along or expand on anything that you learn here. You're likely tuning in because you believe plastic pollution is a problem and you want to find solutions. But before we can talk solutions, we need to have a better understanding of what plastic is and why it was even created. So jump into our time machine and join us on a quick history of plastic. It all started with these two inventors, Alexander Parkes and John Wesley Hyatt. In 1862, Alexander Parkes unveiled his amazing invention at the Great International Exhibition in London, England. The material, called Parkesine, was an organic material derived from cellulose that, once heated, could be molded and retain its shape when cooled. Fast forward 7 years later to 1869, when John Wesley Hyatt had began experimenting with Parkesine. He was trying to invent a new cheap material for game pieces like checkers, chess pieces, or billiard balls. You know, these guys. Hyatt succeeded in his invention, and the material was called celluloid. He didn't know it, but it would change our world forever. Back then, these game pieces were actually made of ivory. Ivory comes from an elephant's tusk and is very expensive and can lead to animal cruelty. The image on the right is a tortoiseshell comb made from the shell of tortoises and turtles. Hard to believe that early types of plastic might have actually helped certain animals, including sea turtles. Over the next few decades, celluloid and similar forms of plastic started being used for all sorts of new products, such as film for photographs, piano keys, and even false teeth. Then, in 1907, a new form of plastic was invented. It was called Bakelite, and it was an incredible new material. It was so strong and durable, and it could withstand heat and electricity. It was used for all sorts of items like telephones, hair dryers, radios, clocks, cameras, and microphones. Through the decades, more and more types of plastic were invented for new and different uses. But it wasn't until World War II that modern plastic really became mass-produced once the military realized how useful it could be, like using nylon for parachutes. From the skies to our thighs, we still use nylon today for items like fabric and clothing, carpets, and sports equipment. Let's just go back one more, please. These materials were not only better alternatives at times, but they also advanced aerospace and communications technology and were used in military equipment during World War II, saving millions of lives. Plastic was a miracle product back then. It was strong but lightweight, durable, and could be molded into and used for so many things. So what changed? The world of plastics forever changed after World War II, when large industries and companies that had been making plastics for military equipment needed to find a new way to sell all of this material. So they shifted their consumer and started making lots of everyday items out of plastic. Everything from cars to furniture, clothes to appliances were made from plastic. Before the plastic explosion, Americans had more of a use it up, wear it out, and make do mentality. But as more and more plastic flooded the market, we went plastic crazy. Next slide, please. Disposable or single-use products were increasingly used for all kinds of food and products. Disposable did not only become commonplace, it was celebrated without thinking through the unintended consequences. Single-use culture became a part of our collective identity and played a huge influence on how the American family became dependent on plastics for daily use across all aspects of life. In 1973, the first disposable polyethylene plastic bottle was created, PET, and used for beverages. We now produce over 20,000 every second. Very quickly, we became addicted to disposable plastic items like Cups, bags, straws, and containers because they were cheap, easy to use, kept our food and beverages fresh, and were everywhere. But of course, there's also the bad news. We've doubled plastic production tonnage in less than 2 decades. And that number isn't just creeping up, but skyrocketing, with some of the world's largest corporations continuing to pump out plastic. By 2050, there's a projected 4-fold increase in production tonnage. And although plastic hasn't been around for a very long time, we've learned a lot about it since then. We've learned that there is no way, and the more we use, the more ends up in our environment, choking our waterways and over 1,200 species of animals. These disposable products come with the huge hidden and externalized costs. We've also learned that plastic isn't as recyclable as we've led to believe, with less than 10% of plastic actually getting recycled. We created so much plastic, it became unmanageable, and we started sending it out to other countries. And we've learned that because 99% of plastic is made from fossil fuels, it hurts our planet and the communities that live at points of extraction, manufacturing, use, or disposal and incineration. So now that we know more about the collateral damage that comes with over-relying on plastic, can we do better? This is one of my favorite quotes from Maya Angelou. We can't do much about what happened in the past, but how can this information influence our future decisions and actions? It's important to think about plastics in this way so that we can better understand how we became so dependent on them and why and how systems have gone wrong. The story of plastics shows us how exponential growth, without stopping to think of long-term and unintended consequences, can turn a solution into a big problem. What would we do differently knowing what we know now? Where can we adopt closed loop and reusable systems? How can we slow the flow of plastic? Whoops, next slide, please. We may not realize it, but as a result of plastics history, we use plastic pretty much all day, every day. It's in our electronics, like phones and computers, in cars and airplanes, in food packaging, and even in our clothing. We are living synthetic lives, and we have become very dependent on plastic. Next week, we'll take a closer look at the different types of plastic and what they're used for. But until then, we want to leave you with this observation challenge. Are you ready? Write down all the plastic items in one room of your house, like the kitchen, bathroom, bedroom. You might be surprised by what you find. Take it one step further and star any items you don't actually need or that could be replaced by a reusable or truly biodegradable material. Take a picture of your list and tag 5 Gyres. Thanks to everyone who tuned in live, and don't forget to join us next week for the 5 Gyres Trash Academy. And until then, feel free to text 5 Gyres to this number, 310-692-7050, to stay tuned for more updates and keep these Trash Academy lessons going. Thanks, everybody.